Hello, everybody. This is your boy Taladia Plays. Welcome to another live stream, guys. I'm your host, and we're going to be talking about another Snyder fans read comics. This time it's Cheetah taking on Superman. But before we talk about the issue, which is issue 13 or issue 14, I got to bring on my co host, Jared from Comics League.
What's going on, Taladia?
What's going on, brother?
Not that much, just hanging out and prepared to talk about some pretty dope comics.
Of course. We got to talk about the New 52. So,
Hey, what's up, Tevia?
hey, what's up, Tavia? Welcome.
So we're talking about issue 13.
Yeah, issue 13. I thought it was issue 12. Sorry, my bad.
12 is the kiss between Superman and Wonder Woman. So we definitely covered that. I remember doing that. So next up, let's get started. So this picks up literally right after 12. So they kiss, they have that awkward eye, and then she just flies away. What I like about this, say what you want about the relationship itself being like rushed, but they don't do the whole, okay, they kiss and they're automatically in a relationship now. It takes a second to build.
It takes their time.
And then we hard cut to Cheetah fighting Wonder Woman in Central Park. And by the way, the art is by Tony S. Daniel. You'll know him from
Super Wonder.
Yes, exactly. This was actually no, Tevia. That wasn't
the kiss.
The kiss was. It ended at the kiss. So. Then, again, Wonder Woman has a fight against Cheetah. It's more of her battling her villains. Now, what's interesting about this is, she's knocked out and saved by the League. And what's kind of funny is Steve Trevor is still being a sad sack in the hospital room because that's what that's all he perpetually is. And he's talking about like. So Batman and Aquaman go to Trevor. Hey, what's up, Cameron?
Hey,
Batman and Aquaman go to Trevor to get information on Cheetah because, again, Steve is attached, air quotes, to Wonder Woman, so he would have information. And what's interesting about this is that what you're seeing in this issue, in this storyline, is the League kind of growing into the family that we're used to seeing them as. It's because, remember, up until this point, and there's a reason why I said that, like, this is the volume where the League becomes the League, because before they were just people that got together occasionally. They weren't necessarily close friends. Obviously, Superman and Batman notwithstanding. So they give information on Cheetah, and it's like, it's the typical, and by the way, it's Abby. He's mostly a jerk, except for in the George Perez run. But in here, the origin they give for Cheetah is the typical. She was an archaeologist who was obsessed with the Amazons, and then she wanted to she's always trying to find Themyscira.
Oh, don't you feel it's hot in here?
I know. Jehidamus!
Flame on! How's everybody doing?
Good. How are you? Just look at some fine art, dude.
Let me guess. Superman and Wonder Woman, second volume, issue 13.
Nope.
Issue 13.
Nope. You're completely wrong.
Justice League issue 3. Not even close, brother. I mean,
y'all been doing so much Super Wonder content. You can't blame
me. This technically applies, so it's not. You're not all the way off.
You're not far off.
So still, they're talking about Cheetah, and they're talking about how like Cheetah was like a close friend of Diana. So then what you're seeing here is that Diana storms out and Superman goes to talk to her, and it's more of essentially Wonder Woman is not used to having a group of friends that she can rely on. She's used to going it solo in this universe. So Superman's like, we're here for you. That's the purpose of the Justice League. We help each other. And they have this great image where they're, again, what I like about this issue and the way the relationship was handled after the kiss is they don't automatically enter a relationship. It's more of, okay, it happened. We're not going to talk about it. They later talk about it.
It's a slow burn type of thing.
Exactly. So then Cyborg and Flash still again talk about about stuff and about helping Diana. And so I love how Flash goes, so what do you think they're talking about? So they essentially so they show up and tell Diana, you know, we can actually find her and stuff. And then I love this image, this moment. Wonder Woman says, you guys don't have to do this. You don't have to help me with this. And then Flash like, oh, no, it's no problem. And you can see Wonder Woman's kind of smiling because, again, they're not used to relying on other people in this universe. And it's so cool seeing them finally grow into that cohesive unit. Was it the new 52 that gave Minerva turning into a full... She did that in Post-Crisis, I believe, a few times.
Yeah, I think it was post-crisis, yeah.
Because in most versions, now in Golden Age, she was wearing a costume, like for the most part. But in more modern interpretations, she is cursed by an artifact.
Yeah. So then, I love this. I love this when, and by the way, Tevya, we know you want Martian Manhunter in the Justice League, but here's the problem with that. This is a younger DH Justice League. It makes more sense for Cyborg to be on the team then. Anyway. Going back to this, I love this Steve Trevor shade that they give. So Steve Trevor's like, hey, maybe I should talk to Diana the way we left things, and Aquaman's like, we'll pass on the message, and then they just
no, no, we don't want Steve Trevor in the picture.
That's like something... Aquaman giving Steve the middle finger, and I love it. It's just so good. He's just standing there like a sad sack, and I'm like, screw you, Steve. So now they're in the Congo.
He's not even a bad guy. I mean,
he's a stalker. He's a bad guy.
An asshole. He's a jerk in the new 52.
He's a bad guy.
He's a bad guy. Yeah, stalker's a bad guy, Jay. A stalker's a bad guy. So, okay. So they show up in the Congo because that's where they track Cheetah. And then Cheetah just pounces and like attacks the League. She even cuts Flash's tendons so he can't like run. He'll heal, obviously, but it's kind of cool seeing like her like take down the Justice League. And so then she bites Superman, and when she bites people, she turns them into cheetahs.
Ooh.
So imagine that. So now we get Super Cheetah.
Super Cheetah, from Super Doomed to Super Cheetah.
Yeah, Cameron says if they wanted a younger member, they have Shazam right there. I'm sorry, my Teen Time bias is so strong. Also, they wanted to like elevate Cyborg as a character because being on the Justice League is a bigger deal than being on the Teen Titans. That's just the way DC handles it.
Yes,
which is true, but as we all know, Victor can't really carry a main title to save his life. I'm sorry, that's just how the audience readership reacts.
And that's kind of, it's kind of funny. That's the original purpose of the Justice League. Sell characters that can't sell their own books.
Wait. But he can carry a film on his own. That's something we can say.
Well, yeah, because you would have had the Snyder cut at the time. Because if you had the Snyder cut, it would have been more of a cinch. Yes, Tevya, we know the new 52 Teen Titans was bad. You don't have to bring that up every time we talk about the new 52.
Anyway.
Yeah. Like, all in all, pretty solid issue.
Yeah, all in all, pretty solid issue. I like the fact that Cheetah's like mystical powers is turning people into cheetahs. That is pretty cool. She never had that power before.
I think, yeah. It's kind of zombie-ish, so I really dig that.
Vampire-ish.
And zombie, because with zombies, a bite also turns you into into one of those creatures.
But the cool thing as well is the art is so good in this. It's like that's pretty cool.
Well, yeah, Tony S. Daniel is like one of the best comic book artists of all time.
I think this is what landed him the job for Super Wonder.
Well, he was also the main artist for like Batman when Grant Morrison was writing it for a while. So he was a name. I think this helped.
Yeah.
Because this was still in like the first, because it was in year 2 of the new 52 that Super Wonder issue 1 came out. So it was still before this. So I'm sure they were like, okay, you have experience drawing these characters and you're popular drawing these characters. Well, why don't you go ahead and draw it?
Yeah. It'd be really cool if Jim Lee drew it though.
Yeah, he stopped after issue 12. So it's Tony S. Daniel for like a little bit of this arc, and then it switches over to Ivan Reyes, who did a lot of the Green Lantern art during the Geoff Johns run.
But I just think, like, for me, the comic was very well storyboard. That's
well
the best way to
paced.
put it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well paced. I like the fact that Wonder Woman was fighting in Central Park, as he called it. And I also like the fact that Clark's and Diana's romance started to kick off.
Properly paced. It's properly paced.
Yeah,
why do you think they didn't have Blue Beetle? Because Blue Beetle was not a name. Here's the problem. See, here's the thing, Tevia. Cyborg, because he was on that Teen Titans cartoon, he was more of a name than Blue Beetle. There, at this point, since Grant Morrison was put on the Justice League and like redeemed the team, they're not going to put as many D-listers on the team as they would. That's just it. Plus, Jaime was even younger than Cyborg at that point, so it's Cyborg just happened to be in that sweet spot for in terms of ages.
Yeah, but I'm gonna say this, right? If I had to give like the artwork a solid 10 out of 10, storyboard, not storyboard wise 9.5. The only downside to it, though, I wish there was a little bit more romance.
You're gonna get that, but again, Super Wonder can't be the plot of the entire book. It's a Justice League book.
I know, but you know what I mean, though, right?
Luckily, here's the thing, Thaladia. The next few issues have like a lot of that stuff sprinkled in.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to say this. The next issue, we get the origin of the cheetah in the new 52 continuity.
Now, I can't wait to read that next week because obviously, like, every week I'm enjoying each individual issue.
Oh.
And, like, I'm learning new. Go on.
I forgot one more thing. So at the end of the issue, we get a backup that shows Steve Trevor recruiting like Oliver Queen and like the JLA, people to the JLA. So that.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, so and here that medallion is going to be very important later.
Somebody's phone's going off.
Yeah. But anyway, so then we have some cool variants, by the way, and we have like the Tony Daniel variant. I freaking love it. And then there you go. Now we're done. I wanted to make sure I gave you all the content.
Yeah, that was pretty fast. But I just think like the pacing was great. I think the backstory was really interesting too.
Mm-hmm.
Like to have the inclusion of the Justice League International.
Mm-hmm.
Like. And Amanda Waller, and like I think this is the first time that we see Amanda Waller slimline Amanda Waller. If you know what I mean.
Was it? Yeah, I think so. Hey, knowing how Geoff Johns made Super Wonder Ship to be a thing in the New 52, how long exactly was he willing to let it go on before he got bored of it? Well, here's the thing. First off, Pika, it was always a thing. It goes back to Golden Age. It's just they solidified in the New 52. Number one. Number two is originally it started as a marketing thing because, again, Superman and Wonder Woman are together. Gasp. But the book sold so well that they kept it going as long as they did. It was only when the vocal minority of Clovis fans got pissy that they decided to, in true Warner Brothers fashion, freak out essentially.
Keyboard warrior themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, I had no problem with the New 52 Waller design. Granted, it's not in character, but I had nothing against it. It's an artistic choice at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Could have it worked for another or even an original character? Sure, I'd have no problem with it. Maybe the daughter of Amanda Waller, if you wanted to go the OC route. But again, some things worked with the New 52, some didn't. But I will say, outside of the miscommunication with editorial behind the scenes, nostalgia bias did play a factor. I will openly admit that, even as a post-crisis DC fan.
Yeah, exactly. But by the way, Tevia, I think New 52 Justice League came out first, so it would be the first time that we see Amanda Waller as Skinny. I don't care either way as long as there's a good story.
Like, that's really all that matters.
Obviously, as you guys know, I'm not exactly married to the way Bruce Timm set everything up.
Okay. Despite pod shots of Bruce Timm aside, are you really that bad of a fan of Green Lantern and Hawk Girl? Or are you just throwing pod shots?
No, I'm not. See, that is not my problem with that episode. It's the. Do you mind if I spoil it?
I've already seen it, so go ahead.
It's the retcon that Jon Stewart is part of the frickin' reincarnation. That's the BS part.
Now, this is just how I interpreted the episode, so correct me if I'm wrong. But I'm pretty sure it's the fact that despite the reincarnation, they still, each version of Shiera and Carter have their own agency, their own autonomy. And that version of Shiera did fall in love with someone else. They just used Jon Stewart's design to say as a redistribution of assets. At least that's how I'm interpreting it.
Yeah, but here's the problem. If that were true, why did Shadow Thief also put Jon Stewart's hand on the memory showing device? Why would he bother with that if it's just really those two? They were just
because he was milking the love triangle. Because he was milking the love triangle for what it was worth. I mean, obviously.
I highly doubt that because that device's express purpose is showing past lives.
Roommate, hey, I wasn't part of the creative team. That's just how I interpreted the episode.
That's fine. That's totally fine. Which is part of I know that, but and to be clear. It's the reincarnation of Jon Stewart that I have the problem with because there's literally no reason to do that.
Yeah, definitely.
But anyway, my point is I'm not married to the way Bruce Timm did it because there were as many of things that he did right. There's an equal amount of stuff that he dropped the ball with. Wonder Woman and that depiction as one of them.
Yep. But all in all, I think this issue though deserves overall a solid 9.5 out of 10.
Yeah, I would say so. And trust me, it ramps up in the later issues. By the way, I'm just gonna say one thing.
Yeah.
In the next issue, you do get one of the key Super Wonder moments in this run. Just to tease you, because I know that's one of the reasons why Taladia likes the series.
Yes. And they say Snyder fans don't read comics. We do.
Probably more than a lot of these people that accuse us of not reading comics.
Anyway, Jay, what do you think of the issue? Like, what was your favorite part of the issue, and like, what would you rate the overall book?
The pacing was definitely a highlight for me, and you cannot go wrong with the art. So let me say that first and foremost. The Steve Trevor stuff, I get it; it's a separate continuity, but okay. Arguably, Steve Trevor doesn't even need to be here. I mean,
he's redundant.
Like, I'm not. Say what you will about him being a male damsel in distress. I'm just saying, if you need a liaison, have Cyborg play that role, or heck, even Batman. There's other characters or agents who could have played that liaison role. Mm-hmm. And even in that context, like, okay, Superman and Diana are trying to do the slow burn type of thing. Steve fumbled the bag. You can't, that's a conflict of interest waiting to happen.
Yep.
But Jay, you actually set him up, just saying.
But
hey,
anyway,
by all means, go nuts.
Go bananas?
Anyway, yeah, exactly. But yeah, Jay, you just proved my point. Steve Trevor is redundant.
So seriously, the very trope is Steve Trevor is just a male Lois Lane. At least in the Golden Age. Excuse me, let me get this straight. It was the Silver Age. Excuse me, it was the Silver Age. At least in the Silver Age, he was more of a father figure to Diana.
Exactly, that's when he was useful. Now he's just Lois Lane, but a dude.
A dude?
Yeah. He's not.
You could have worded that better.
His usefulness ends the minute she leaves that island.
You know what? You're making me laugh. I swear that I can't keep a straight face.
I'm so you just set me off on my hatred of a lot of characters.
Yes. But yeah, so Jay, he gives it that. I know what Jared will give it anyway. I think it's a 10 out of 10 for him, isn't it?
Yep, pretty much.
Okay. So can you give the fans that in the chat right now or watching this later, can you give them, obviously give them a little bit of a tease, can you give them a panel of a tease that we could implement for the next issue?
Sure. And by the way, Tevia, wait, it could be worse. You could bring in Lois Lane's brother as a love interest for Wonder Woman.
Oh, yeah, she
wait.
does have a brother.
Okay, here's how I know that would never happen, because I've never heard of him. So, and well, if I did, I would essentially have it where, no, I wouldn't even bring it in. That makes sense. That makes sense. Did he invent that character? It sure makes sense.
Oh, God.
Okay, you know what? I'll give you a tease. I think I know a thing that's going to tease it. Okay, here's the tease I think you'll want to see. Okay, hang on. I'll share the screen. There you go.
Isn't that from this same cornfield that they were in Super Wonder?
They weren't in a cornfield, I don't think, in that book. Volume 1, they were in the fortress. But yeah, some pretty good stuff.
Ooh.
So, yep, there you go. Yep, he created.
So
oh, God, yes. He created that book. You know what's kind of funny? There's a reason why no one brings up Lois Lane's brother.
Because he sucks.
Because he was invented by Brian Michael. I peaked on Ultimate Spider-Man Bendis.
All right. You know, this is what I think of what's his name? There it is.
Yeah, second Warner Brothers.
Thank you, Deladia.
Yeah, that's what I really think.
It didn't play for me.
Oh, it just said suck it, Warner Brothers.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Anyway, shall we switch gears? Because I think we're talking a good 20, 25 minutes of just talking about New 52 Justice League.
Let's do it.
Let's do the transition. Because I think all right, where is it? There it is.
Transition. Okay. Sorry, I lagged there.
All right, where's the comics? We won't need this. Hold on, I'm just typing it out. Elseworlds.
Oh yeah, you mean Bat Elseworlds, as Britt puts it, because most of it is Batman books.
What do you think, Jay? Did you see the comic trailer?
I did. You got spinoff for DC versus Vampires. Not the biggest fan of that storyline, but I could see why people liked it. Also, Dark Knights of Steel with Deathstroke. Deathstroke as a Viking. I never thought I'd see that, but it makes sense. It makes sense. No comment why. Just know if you've read Deathstroke's most iconic storylines, you know.
Why'd you have to go there, Jay? I'm going to make you suffer for Gotham Knights.
Hey, man. I mean, seriously. I'm not going to say it's good by any stretch of the imagination, but if part one's anything to go by the way, you guys need to check that out. I think I held out pretty good the first halfway through.
Trust me, it gets worse.
It gets worse. And wait until you reach 300, then we're gonna break you for Velma. That's another thing.
What, a glorified teen parody with Mindy Kaling ranting about how bad her life is, even though she's the most privileged people on the planet. I'm sorry, I could roast for days. Though I will say this, Scrappy-Doo was the hero of that series.
Yeah. Tevia, okay, if this is in the same continuity as the Vampires 1 book, I don't see that happening, because where would he be? Because he would have been referenced in some way in DC Vampires 1. I don't think he exists in this universe.
I think he's
No, he
confusing
doesn't.
him for Deceased because I know for a fact John was not.
He's in Deceased 100%, but he's talking about DC Vampires because
Yeah,
they
I
are
think
doing a sequel to DC Vampires. And as far as I know, and Jay, you can correct me, John is never referenced.
I did not see it during my read of DC versus Vampires. I was not a fan of the ending, but I know for a fact I did not see or John Kent referenced in any way.
Guess what I got? The trade. I'm gonna verify this.
Not a fan of the ending, though.
Not a fan of the ending. The ending is kind of anticlimactic.
Pika's asking, did we see Lois die in DC versus Vampires?
I'm pretty sure we did, if I remember.
Yes! Yes! My favorite continuity now!
Lois also dies in Kingdom Come, Jared, and that's a much better story than this.
That's it's better, definitely. The only story that arguably gets worse is Injustice. Suck it, Tom Taylor.
To be fair, that was an edgy video game by NetherRealm to market for edgy studios. By all accounts, the Injustice tie-in comics are a shelf title series.
Yeah, it's heavier. I'm gonna say this. John Kent does not have to be involved in every single DC event. He doesn't.
I'll probably go into more detail during my Damian Wayne retrospective, which should be out in a few days, so cheap plug on my part. But Super Sons kind of holds the character back. I'll say it. Ultimately, if we're looking at this narratively, the Super Sons brand is just about dead at this point, and it ultimately holds both characters back because you're trying to keep them limited to a specific era that barely got off the ground. And I'm not going to say it imploded like New 52 did, but it stagnated.
No, it imploded.
It did better than all new, all different Marvel, but sales stagnated. I mean, Rebirth barely lasted 2 years.
Well, it imploded by the time they got to Doomsday Clock because that was supposed to be the main event, but it took too long, so they were like, arguably what killed it was Metal.
Yeah, because I know for a fact that after No Justice, thank you, No Justice with the Brainiac and the Omega Titans. God, that comic seems so long ago now. But after No Justice, they pretty much removed the Rebirth labeling on their titles, and they just did DC Universe for about a year and a half, and then they did the setup for what was supposed to be 5G/Future State. I don't really like to talk about the whole 5G Future State debacle because, again, it was just chasing headlines and copying Marvel. It was never going to get off the ground like that. But ultimately, yeah, DC is in a major rebranding all across the board. If it were up to me, and granted, I know how popular our new direction for a series is, but if it were up to me, I would just reboot wholesale. And just have a blank slate.
Yep, that's what I would do. 100%. Yeah, 100%. At this point, reboot the damn thing.
Because I get it. You wanted to ride off nostalgia, appease the old fans, and it was good brand recognition. It was good standing when the DCEU collapsed. I understand that. But all that would amount to is a temporary fix. Things would get convoluted again, and then and then sales would stagnate because of it.
But going back to Elseworlds, the one I'm really excited for
is
the Deathstroke as a Viking. That looks dope. I'm going to read the crap out of that because I love me some Slade Wilson.
Too easy.
What about making a new Ultimate Universe? They are doing that.
They are doing that. I don't know if it's going to, because here's the thing. Taladia, maybe you can. Here's something you may not have heard. I heard from Brown Destroyer that he heard that this could be just like he misheard them, but apparently he heard it's going to be a full-on reboot.
Wait, what?
Really?
I think he may have misunderstood, but it could be a reboot. Which that would be interesting. That would be very interesting if they just reboot the whole thing again.
I don't think they'll have the balls to, because even with absolute power, you still need to actually, how does this lead? How does this glorified ripoff of the Cadmus saga warrant a full-scale reboot? Like, are we flashpointing this, or Wait, I
It
forget. We're on
depends.
Taladia's channel. Are we flash pointing this shit?
It's Superman and Wonder Woman and Batman. They are the
Yeah,
Trinity
you
for a
forgot
reason.
my
They're friends.
channel. Yeah.
Actually, here's the thing: that Trinity concept is kind of made up. It's not. It's not this big long thing.
It's for marketing purposes, and I think it goes back as far back as the late 80s, early 90s. But yeah, the Trinity as a IP or as a marketing tactic, it's not that long. It's not that old. Excuse me.
It started with Kingdom Come.
Yeah, late.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I can see that late 90s.
So, but I'm looking forward to the next comic book stuff, right? I think the Elseworld thing is going to be great, but the Absolute Universe is the one I'm looking forward to because it's got Scott Snyder involved, and oh boy,
absolutely. And by the way,
I love Scott
Deathstroke
Snyder.
is not just the Nightwing villain. He's yes. Thank you, YARK. 100%. By the way, this whole concept of he's a blank villain, so he can't fight blank. That is just creating boring stories.
Yeah, but that's also done for synergy and branding purposes. Now, Deathstroke you can get away with because Nightwing is a subversion of the Batman brand, and
he's fought literally everyone. He took out the Justice League.
Again, Deathstroke is a high-ranking Terminator and combatant. You can get away with making him the villain for other characters. He's not strictly tied to one particular character or IP. His origin, his debut is in the context of Teen Titans and Judas Contract, but he's versatile enough to where you can have him fight just about anybody, as long as they're street level. I mean, do I have a point?
You have a point.
I'm not saying they should do that because at the end of the day, Deathstroke works best when it's Titans related or Justice League related. But I'll save my piece on that. But Deadshot is just your typical merc. You can have Deadshot just about anybody. You don't really have to give him a nemesis.
I know what you're gonna say, Jay. I was gonna say save it for your New Direction verse.
What about Deadshot? Same rules apply because mercenaries, they don't really have one set guy that they fight. It's really anyone that they want to pay. But by the way, Cameron says, "What, Jay? You don't like Slade fighting Superman with a kryptonite sword?" Yeah, that's happened. By the way,
that has happened.
He fought Wonder Woman in the New 52 Deathstroke run, Taladia. That's a run we have to cover eventually.
Yeah.
Again, if someone hires Deathstroke to fight someone, he will do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, Deathstroke is a very versatile character in concept alone.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just saying, if you're actually going to have someone be supervillain and actually have a nemesis, have them stick to one character and one character only in that context. They could fight anybody if they're versatile enough, but only give them one nemesis, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
One nemesis and stick to it.
Yeah.
But I was gonna ask you guys this. How would you do the ultimate universe for Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman?
Well, for Batman, okay, so first off, Superman and Wonder Woman are together. That's a given. Lois Lane is a journalist trying to expose Superman's identity, so she's a rival journalist. And then that's how it handled Lois. I wouldn't eliminate her because she does play kind of a role. I mean, I like the role. Steve Trevor is either a father figure or dead. Batman is getting completely rebooted. Nothing carries over. Nothing. You can start from the beginning and tell it the ultimate Nightfall, ultimate Court of Owls, essentially. And by the way,
let me go ahead and break that down right now. Yes, that is a good idea. Reboot, clean slate, all of it. But the main reason Batman and Green Lantern carried over with the New 52 is because those books were selling bank.
But you undermine the reboot. If you're going to keep those, why? It's the same thing with James Gunn. If you're going to keep some stuff, why do the reboot? And then say it happened within 5 years. If they had said 10 years, then believable. I could probably say
that's believable.
That's believable. If they had said 10 years, I'd be like, okay, that's reasonable. But
because you because you have Grayson rebranding to become Nightwing, even though in the New 52 he never officially dubbed the Titans. Memory wide rebirth, all that got explained away. Then you have major storylines like Kingdom Come, the death of Jason Todd in Bosnia. Then you have Nightfall. Then you have Nightfall. Then you have Azrael. Then you have all that and 4 Robins, including the majority of Grant Morrison's run in 5 years.
And getting
impossible.
wait, what about Wally? No, because Tevia, Barry will always be the primary Flash. That's it.
Unless we're counting Jay Garrick, but that's
unless you're counting Jay Garrick. Barry will always be the primary Flash with Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. That's just the way it works. Literally, the only reason why Wally was there, it does make sense, because literally the only reason why Wally was the primary Flash for so long is because Barry was dead. That's it. Barry has the stronger brand than Wally, particularly after Tom King.
And the Arrowverse. The Arrowverse also played a factor as well.
That's just the way it's going to work. That's just the way it's going to work.
Now, does Wally have a strong IP? Yes, he was the Flash for a generation. 23 years. Wally was the main Flash.
25. But Tevia, DC shouldn't cater just to the people that just to the past generations. They have to also consider way more people became Flash fans and Wally and Barry Allen fans because of the Flash TV show. That's it. That's it. That's just the way it works. Because that Flash TV show, Wally will never be the primary Flash. He'll be a Flash. He won't be the primary Flash, is what I'm saying. But anyway, so what do you guys think?
As for me, now granted, similar to what we did with the New Direction Affairs, I'm not going to refer to it wholesale, but similar to it, I would try to find a balance between what we already have and, okay, how can we mix things up to actually engage a new audience? I would take like manga elements, not blatantly rip it off, but take manga elements, try to make things more nuanced, more complex. Let's just say, for example, more than just jangling old keys and just getting by, because that's what Star Wars has been doing since the Disney buyout, if I'm being completely honest. Mm-hmm. But even so, like, I would let things build gradually. This is a new universe. This is a clean slate. Like you said, Jared, earlier, Lois and Clark don't get together right away. Now, let me be perfectly clear. I am not going for an intern rom-com My Adventures of Superman situation.
No.
I am not doing that. We are not doing that.
No, we're doing the opposite of that.
That was a terrible idea.
And to be clear, Lois and Clark can never get together in this universe, because what's the point? If they're going to end up together, what's the point of doing an alternate universe?
If you want to do something different, that's fine. Or you want to keep things consistent for the sake of familiarity. Now, this is just a devil's advocate, Jared. I'm not undermining your perspective. I'm not. But if you do that, don't have them get married and have kids. When it was just a will they, won't they, when they were just a couple, though arguably not biologically compatible, but that was before convergence. That's a separate conversation. But if we're just sticking with them being a couple, it's not that bad. It builds drama. Even if Lois is still a damsel in distress at the end of the day, that dynamic works.
But still, again, they're still together. I'd say don't put them together at all.
I would approve.
Because if they're going to be together, what is the point of doing an alternate continuity? You just stay with the same convoluted as hell continuity. Because this is the most obvious way to differentiate the absolute universe from the main DC universe. And by the way, Tevia, why is Barry Allen becoming a more popular character, sadly?
Because I can go ahead and answer that. Because not only Barry had a complete arc. Barry, of course, in Silver Age, he had a full arc. He had a good send-off. The only reason he was brought back in the actual Flash Rebirth by Geoff Johns, not the Rebirth Initiative, was because Geoff Johns was a high tier, was an A, maybe low A tier
at the
writer.
time, it was like maybe B+.
B+, thank you. B+ writer who had who was selling gangbusters and had nostalgia bias. Green Lantern I can justify because he pretty much got screwed over because of editorial mandate, and they wanted to make and the higher ups wanted to make their DC's Peter Parker. So the whole Hal Jordan, Kyle Rayner situation I can somewhat understand. But what happened? But snubbing Wally, there was really no reason that. Barry had a good send off. He had a decent character arc. And I still can't find an explanation for why.
But again, because of the CW show, Barry got more. Barry essentially got more like life breathed into him. You can't just because of that show. Wally's never going to be the primary Flash.
Oh, I'm not refuting the Arrowverse impact, the Arrowverse effect. I am not refuting. I'm talking strictly from 2009 to 2013, that range, before the Flash show kicked off.
Mm-hmm.
In that time, there was no definitive reason to definitively bring Barry back other than nostalgia bias.
Exactly, and I'm not going to argue against that because that is true. That's the one reason why Geoff brought him back and did stuff with him and made Barry his own character. Because, at the time, Wally was more popular because of that 25 years of Wally being the Flash. Plus, he was the Flash on the Justice League cartoon. But because of, but Barry, Tevia, what came before the Flash movie? Zack Snyder's Justice League, which was one of the most popular DC movies ever. Who's the Flash in Zack Snyder's Justice League? Who's the Flash? It's Barry. Yeah, but again, you also had the show. So anyone that didn't like Ezra Miller could go to the CW, and again, still Barry. So the fact that you had that show solidified in people's heads that it's Barry and not Wally.
Although Barry never directly made an impact in the DCAU, he was, if you look very close, if you were a keen eye, there were Easter eggs referring to Barry in the DCAU, but never an appearance by him directly. Because in most versions, Wally has the same origin as Barry. He mimics a chemical experiment gone awry, struck by lightning, gets superpowers, and Barry makes him his sidekick due to guilt. That's basically Wally's origin. Mm-hmm. Even so, there's hardly any definitive difference between the two of them, other than the fact that Wally is slightly more emotionally stable than Barry is due to Barry's personal trauma from the death of his mom.
And then Tom King showed up and ruined that.
But again, cosmic shenanigans, Flashpoint, the whole thing pretty much, say what you will about Savitar and the dimensional barrier and all that, but it all boiled down to Wally having a nervous breakdown and having a speed surge in the middle of a cornfield.
Yeah, so because of that, that story specifically also is why Wally will never be the primary Flash, because when people think of Wally West, they think of that story. Even if it has been retconned by Jeremy Adams and that it didn't exactly happen that way, when people think of Wally, it happens to that. And by the way, Jahi, to answer your question, in the DCAU, they basically did what they did to Kyle and gave him Barry's origin. In other words, there was no Barry Allen. They just gave him Barry's origin because he was the more popular version of the character. And I wasn't knocking that because I got same with Kyle getting Hal's origin because Hal Jordan was dead at the time.
Yeah, and not to confuse. No, there is a difference between having a prior character's origin or just using that origin and an amalgamation or an amalgam if we're using comics logic. But thank you. But Tim Drake's Robin in the DCAU, as we all have figured out by now, was an amalgamation of Jason and Tim due to censor constraints and not wanting to show the literal demise of a child. Mm-hmm. Though the Return of the Joker flashback does create some hypocrisy there. But hey.
It's heavy. It's not retcon out of existence. The story still happened. Still happened. They just retconned the circumstances around that. My point is, when people think of if anyone's aware of the comics, people think of Wally, they think of Heroes in Crisis. That's it. They don't know Jeremy. They don't know Jeremy Adams retconned it because Flash is not. Flash has a strong reader base, but not strong enough to dispel that. Particularly Wally West Flash.
And I hate to cut you off, Jared, but Jeremy Adams' Flash run almost flopped because people were so pissed off from Heroes in Crisis, it completely derailed it. It was only towards the very end when Wally got his redemption arc did he even remotely get back to decent numbers again in the comic market at that time.
Mm-hmm. That's why.
Seriously, you are not going to be able to clean up that stain. Wally's IP is forever stained by that story.
Thank you, Karen. And it's all in good fun.
Good fun.
But that's really the thing. Technically, I only brought up the Flashpoint as an example of Barry Allen. No, but Tevia, again, you had the show. That's the difference. And plus, Good
That is
point.
true.
When
That is
people think
true.
of Wally, they think of Kid Flash. Because apart from the comics and the DCAU, the only time that we've seen Wally is Kid Flash. Even the Flash show. Which,
Though
and
technically that was the Wallace West version, but that's
yeah,
my
but here's the thing, though. Now when people think of Wally, because, again, the people that watch the show, yes, I guarantee you a portion of the audience is comic book fans. I guarantee it. But I guarantee you that there's plenty of general audience members who watch The Flash. They don't know that that was a retcon in the comic to not be Wally West. That's why. Again, we have to stop thinking of this purely as comic book fans and think of this more as general audience members, because that's what these studios are aligned to. That's who they're paying attention to. That's it. They
the
could
comic book
care
audience
less.
is a constant. The comic
They
book
could
audience
care
is
less. Plus, there's not enough of us to make these things as successful as these studios want. There's not enough of us to make these movies make $1 billion.
not comic book readers alone. Yes.
Yeah, so really, you have to make these characters marketable to the general audience first. That's it. And Dawn DC was pretty good in the beginning. Like this way, Dawn DC had some fun books, but the initiative as a whole was kind of derailed by like Night Terrors and all that stuff. Yeah, it was good, and then Night Terrors happened, which was best in the New 52 premiere first in the yeah, I'm not disputing that, Tevi. I'm just saying because the general audience thinks of Wally, they think of that. They think of the CW Wally, even though that's Wallace, but they don't know that.
But I will say this: Night Terrors, it's a decent enough story. It's just if it actually was published during Halloween.
That's true. I'm like,
of all the events,
if all the events to not do during Halloween, Night Terrors. That should have been the first thing. I mean, you have general audience members that think Oliver acts exactly like Bruce. Yeah, exactly. They think Green Arrow is pretty much Batman. I mean,
he kind of is. Like, hold on. Okay, back in the late Golden Age, I hate to cut you off, Jared. I really do. I'm sorry. But back in the late Golden Age, early Silver Age, Green Arrow was a ripoff of Batman, a replacement for Batman because they didn't want to risk licensing or other internal disputes by having Batman appear in multiple comics other than Batman the Detective. This was when Justice League was first getting off the ground. So you had Green Arrow effectively be a mainstay of the Justice League while Batman and Superman were part-timers. So for the most part, Green Arrow has grown out of the Batman shadow for the most part, but Arrowverse didn't really do it any favors. It kind of regressed to Green Arrow as an IP to a degree. That's all I wanted to say.
All the more reason why DC should do a bigger and better story to overshadow Heroes in Crisis, save Wally's reputation, and make obscure characters better known, so they're not replaced in adaptations. Unfortunately, here's the difference here, Pika. Even if they redeem Wally, Barry was the movie and TV show Flash. That's not going to change anything. The general audience doesn't know that Wally is the Flash. That's it. If they know of Wally West, they know of him as Flash's Robin of Kid Flash.
Which he did rebrand and grow into the role of Flash after Barry was killed off. But Wally never officially rebranded or changed his name in any way. He was just modeling and honoring his mentor. So technically, Wally has never really grown out of the Flash mantle, at least not in a significant way.
Exactly.
Grayson did and became Nightwing for Batman,
and then became Batman, and then went back to being
Nightwing. That's more of a hashtag full circle type situation. But most,
there you go. Thank you.
But most sidekicks either model their mentors when they're killed off, or they do rebrand but struggle to get out of their mentor shadow, whether it be IP wise or character wise. That's why you don't really see a whole lot of sidekicks anymore, and that's why you mostly have partners. They have their own name from the gate. They partner with the main hero, and then they just go from there.
Plus, here's the other thing, and Tavia, I know why you want Wally West to be the Flash is because you also want his kids. But again, if let's say in the unlikely event they were going to bring in Wally as the main Flash, you wouldn't get the kids until probably years later. You really wouldn't. You really wouldn't. Plus, the kids aren't a strong enough IP. Chances are they would have they would have Wally with Linda, and that's it. To 23 years and had yeah, you did have that,
briefly.
but then again, that was undone by Geoff Johns bringing him back, and also retcon that he didn't actually die.
Not to mention the whole Bart taking up the mantle thing. Granted, I barely remember this story myself, but Bart was aged up to be Flash for roughly a year before he was killed off by inertia. Was it one? It could have been 2 years, but I'm pretty sure it was more than one. It was not a successful endeavor.
And Tavia, here's what you got to understand. The kid characters, while they are great and they have an audience, are not marketable for the general audience in movies. Animated movies, fine, but general audience, probably not. That's why you probably won't get a John movie, a Super Sons movie, in addition to the fact that brand has been... But also adding on that no one knows who Jay and Iray are. You're not going to be able to do that. And before you say if they do an animated movie, get this. The general audience is not watching animated DC projects in the numbers that they would need to. As much as James Gunn doesn't want to admit it, animated projects aren't like the place to introduce characters.
It's just a completely different market than when most of us were growing up in the early to mid 90s. It's just a completely different market now, whether it be from the networks, the demographics, whole 9 hours, completely different generation. But I will say this, though, back to our original topic. I will say this, though. If you are going to reboot, the best thing to do is to have a balance. Acknowledge at least what made the previous unit, at least acknowledge what worked before, but still bring something new to the table. That way you have something, okay, this was worth justifying, or we can actually boost the sales and do what we need to do with this new initiative. Well, have a balancing act. The New 52 did not have a good balance. They had new stories, but they didn't directly give a proper send-off to the old guard of post-crisis. They tried to blend and have their cake and eat it too. Now, Batman and Green Lantern, those books were selling gangbusters from a commercial standpoint. There wasn't really too much you can do on that. I will play devil's advocate there from a business standpoint. Now, objectivity, with that aside, New 52 was rushed. There was no consistent plan. Nothing was really planned out. It was just a desperate bit boost sales. It did what it was supposed to do.
And avoid it being shut down. It's just the thing about it is like, yeah, they could have done a story after, they could have had Flashpoint end the way it was supposed to be, and it's have Barry come back and then do a story that ended that universe and then reboot. That's what they could have done. And a lot of here's the other thing is that those books shouldn't have gotten their own books. That's the thing. As much as I enjoyed like OMAC and Men at War, the thing is, when you're starting a new universe, the only reason why they did that is because they wanted to try and launch with 52 books. That's why.
Because 52, New 52, but no, that was a bad idea. Mm-hmm. That was just a bad idea. Cameron Bailey agrees with me. New 52 was hella rushed. And that is true. And the less said about Future's End, the better, because that is nightmare fuel.
Yeah, but what I have always argued is that it was rushed, and I will acknowledge that even as a fan of the era myself.
Thank you.
Had they not done Future's End, a Convergence, and DCU, had they not done those three things, they could have salvaged it.
Because, that's a fair point.
It was mostly just the editorials have to talk to each other and stuff. And it was mainly just coordination stuff. But if they didn't do that, then I do know some of the Wildstorm Cares got books, which didn't last. Yeah, I know. But I'm saying if they had, because the New 52 had a strong enough start that if they had maintained that momentum, they would have been fine.
Now, Future's End was a mess. No question. Future's End was a mess. However, Convergence was a cap off to the Earth 2 saga. So tweak some things. You probably could have fixed that up a little bit. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to completely bash Convergence, even no matter how infamous it is. But I'm not going to bash it outright. But DCYOU, I do not care if it was a holdover for a few months. DCYOU was horrendous. There was only a few good books that were genuinely good, and that's because publication those titles debuted prior, and they were carrying over during that time. Patrick Gleason's Robin, Son of Batman. Maybe Batman Endgame and Jim Gordon taking up the cowl with the Bat mech suit. Maybe, but even then, that wasn't a good storyline. At least compared to what came before.
New 52 is also heavily sexualized. We can all agree on that, and I don't see a problem with that. But okay,
it's a valid criticism. I will honor that.
But again, it's equal opportunity too. So it's like it's no. I don't see that as a problem. So yeah, DCU era. It wasn't a bad idea from the start. Heavy. They could have done it better. But what they oh, by the way, Truth Arc. Let me ask you this. Who wrote that for Superman, Wonder Woman? Yeah, boy Tomasi. So who is to blame for that? But anyway, New 52 was both rushed and dragged for those series, and they had issues. Yeah, exactly. But the point is, before they got to like Future's End and DCU and Convergence, they could have like redirected.
Don't you mean a new direction?
New direction. There you go.
I had to. I at least had to get one pun in this video. But yeah. Needless to say, again, you need to give some kind of closure. If you can't balance what came before and what came new outright, you at least need to give some kind of closure and a wrap up. Like, okay, the higher ups want to do something new. This is going to be a new direction all across the board. I at least got some closure out of it. I'm okay with it. Do not do Ultimatum, for the love of God.
No, do not.
No. I remember my nephew had nightmares reading that book, and I'm like,
tastes like chicken. I had to. That's a reference. Yes. I'm so if there was a yeah, they could have. They definitely could have. For one thing, get Lobdell off the book, but
please.
Arguably, he got his stride with Red Hood and the Outlaws. That's it. Because, by the way, say what you want about the New 52. That's where we got the anti-hero Jason Todd from. It was from that. And the Lazarus Pit origin as opposed to the retcon punch.
Wait, didn't they take elements from that just before? Because I believe the Under the Red Hood adaptation movie came out in 2010. So I feel like for synergy purposes,
in the comics, in the comics, they did it for New 52.
Okay. I thought they did it just before Flashpoint. Okay.
Yeah.
Also, okay. Since we're already down this rabbit hole, thanks, Jared. I might as well. The reason between Ultimatum and Apocalypse War is the fact Apocalypse War was a build-up as much as it was a teardown. It had tact. Ultimatum is basically Mortal Kombat, but with Marvel characters.
Get over here.
I'm gonna let you have that, Jared. I'm gonna let you have that.
Thank you.
Even so, it was just oh God. Do not let your younger children read Ultimatum.
No.
It will scar them for life.
You're telling me J-Heat kids shouldn't see Doctor Strange being strangled by his own cape?
No, they should not.
Would you say that the New 52 is why Joker started becoming more and more bloodthirsty? Should I say couldn't find good? No, he was going in that direction. That was just Scott Snyder's writing.
No, yeah, Joker, yeah, because it was up until now. Grant, in the original story, it was actual real country. They just made it a fictional country due to public relations. But after the death of Jason Todd, that's when Joker started becoming more menacing, more vile, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't just a John Cena Peacemaker. Actually, no, it doesn't. If you're saying reboot, you have to reboot. It doesn't matter because Henry. By that logic, they should have kept Henry Cavill as Superman.
Because he worked. He
worked. Just because he works. If that's the justification for keeping that actor and that character, then keep everyone, because arguably, except for Ezra and Amber, they all worked as their roles.
Commercially speaking.
but if you're saying it's a reboot and you're going in a hashtag new direction,
Thank you.
JD,
Thank you.
everyone leaves. Everyone goes. It doesn't matter if it's a minor character or a major character, because guess what? What James Gunn is doing is what the New 52 did. Only they're keeping the characters that didn't sell stuff.
Trying to have their cake and eat it too. Now, nepotism, casting, James Gunn, behind the scenes, all of that. Peacemaker itself is not relatively standalone because you literally have a DCEU Justice League cameo on the very last episode of season 1.
And if you say some stuff is canon, some stuff is not, the general audience is not paying attention to what James Gunn says. So they're going to be like, why is Corn Sweat in this series? I thought Cavill was the Superman. Where's Jason Momoa as Aquaman? Because Momoa and Miller were actually voice and head. You could see them in that cameo.
Now, granted, and I say this relatively loosely, I would never say this unless it was an objective fact. The DCEU could have been salvaged if Emmerich didn't sell off Warner Media.
Yeah.
Get me out of this.
And by fun fact, they were going to restore, they were going to do more Snyder DC movies, but then that's partly why Emmerich sold off Warner Media.
Now, I was not the biggest fan of it. I respect my colleagues. I appreciate the conversation. But when I was a teenager, I was not the biggest fan of the Snyderverse. I had DCAU bias. I will openly admit that. Even so, I respected the potential when Snyderverse came out. Okay, AT&T is making them do this. Warner Media. This actually has some momentum here, especially with the 6-year fan campaign. This could work. Tweak some things, but it could work. However, and the Oscar more than proves this in of itself, because Safran, all the old regime involved, could not take an L in a classified and dignified way. Okay, we'll leave, but we're going to sell you off the first chance we get.
And they did. And by the way, Tavia, no, I don't think that Tomorrowverse could be saved because there's too much
baggage going on behind the scenes.
Arguably, the DC AMU could have been saved had they not started to like shoehorn in post-crisis stories in a new 52 universe.
They did that out of convenience because a lot of that was job security, and those are classic storylines that we're going to get adaptations regardless.
But they flopped. You know what's kind of funny? The DC AMU, as it was an adaptation of the new 52, trying to turn into Rebirth, had the exact same effect Rebirth did on the comics. So there you go.
They did do better than all new, all different Marvel, but that's not saying much.
That's not that hard, though. That's like saying that's like saying it sold more than Snowflake in Safe Space.
God damn, I forgot about that.
Which didn't even get released, but that's the point. I know, right?
Okay, I thought it was April. Did April Fools come early? I remember that announcement like it was yesterday. I was like, did April Fools come early? Like someone's got to be yanking me.
No. Yeah, when it is that was before YouTube took down the dislikes. That was like a couple of 100,000 likes, 3 million dislikes. Oh. It's the most disliked video on Marvel's entire YouTube channel. Because even the people that like always promote like diversity, even forced diversity, even they're like, this seems like a parody from an alt-right person. Because that's what it looked like. Because I'm like, Snowflake in Safe Space, internet gas.
Just put the what? Wait, what? Okay. Bendis' Wonder Comic, and yes, I do deserve the clip in a minute. But even Wonder Comics had more tact than this. The only you had two main gripes with Wonder Comics. You had two main gripes. One, the Young Justice title relied way too much on nostalgia. And that of the Super Twins, I probably butchered that, but you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, the Wonder Twins. You mean the ones that were, again, from an orgy island or something like that?
Something, yes, a society.
What is it about comics and orgy islands?
We are so demonetized.
No, that's a legitimate question. The X-Men and then Bendis with his stuff. It's really stupid. But anyway, so it's a lot. Are you still there?
I think he had to step out for a bit. Taladia, can you hear us?
Okay, so I guess it's just
Well,
you and me.
I guess we'll keep going. But Pika says Tomorrowverse could have done Dark Victory as long as the Long Halloween sequel, but no. The Crisis on Infinite Earths movie had to establish that Tomorrowverse Batman is Robinless.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand. Okay, I'm not the biggest fan of the Tomorrowverse. Cardinal Sin, I know. But at the end of the day, this was just a series of transition projects while Warner Discovery, which will later become Warner Brothers Discovery, merger was going on. These were a series of transition projects over the course of 4 years. By that logic, you could have just kept the Dikamu. Maybe pull a more Future's End type ending. Not Future's End, excuse me. Days of Future Past type ending. Excuse me. I almost said something I would cringe at. Lord. You could have pulled a Days of Future Past type ending. Oh, we just changed the timeline. We just moved some things around a bit. Rather than, okay, we're just going to fully reboot because this universe has relatively stagnated. Well, for one, you used a New 52 template. So that would have doomed your project alone.
Yeah, exactly.
Jared, what do you think?
And Tevye, for story, that's why.
Story.
That's why. Because they wanted to tell that story. They didn't have time to introduce Harbinger. Because a lot of these projects were forced upon them, as Sam said. That's about it. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I do agree. They had the template there, but they didn't execute on it. And then when they did, they used it as an opportunity to force in storylines that didn't work. In fact, it was kind of funny. Wonder Woman Bloodlines is the lowest performing of the DC AMU movie.
That is true. Yes, by numbers, that is true.
Why? Because the Rebirth template didn't work. Wait. Tevye, I know why you want the Rebirth template, but refer to my statement on John Kent not being marketable. That's it. Plus the fact Rebirth doesn't work because at the time, New 52 was the universe. That's it. That's literally it.
Rebirth,
when they transitioned, they should have just ended the universe and then done a Rebirth universe.
I'm not saying Tomorrowverse doesn't work conceptually. I'm just saying that you knew this ultimately wasn't going to last from a commercial standpoint, because the best two selling of the Tomorrowverse movies were Man of Tomorrow and The Long Halloween two-parter. Those were the best selling by far. The moment Green Lantern Beware My Power tanked, you knew this was the beginning of the end.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, there's no way we could salvage this. I mean, James Gunn's trying to do his thing with Synergy, and
we'll see if that works.
There's just too many undeciding factors to warrant whether or not the Tomorrowverse was salvageable. There's really too many variables.
Plus, they did too much stuff off screen. And yes, I'm never going to let that go because that's crappy storytelling. Telling me but not showing me. I'm sorry. Ignoring Superman and Wonder Woman because it's not really about that. That's just crappy storytelling. Because that's one of the number one rules of storytelling. No,
but did you really want to see an adaptation of Superman Wonder Woman Volume 4, Tevye? I mean, Jared, excuse me. God. Hold on. Actually, speak of Rebirth.
Because again, when people think of Superman, they think of Clark. They're not going to make animated movies based on the variants. That
actually would have potential, not gonna lie.
It probably would. Yes, this Synergy, because that will really help you sail. Here's the thing: the whole idea of synergy is because these companies have the arguably false impression that people are going from the movie theaters to the comic book stores. That happens. The only ever time that really happened in good enough numbers was when the MCU was starting off. But again, when the MCU was starting off, what was going on in the comics, Jay Heat?
Marvel Now and all new, all different.
Exactly. And that turned off a lot of people. So synergy can work, but Zack Snyder ruined Jimmy Olsen. Who said that was Jimmy Olsen? The CIA assumes the identity of people all the time. That's one of the things that's the easiest to retcon away.
But, okay, if we're really going to have this debate, we might as well talk about it in stride. Did we really need the DCU reboot? Could the DCU be salvageable with what we had?
Yeah, it actually would have had they actually gone with the original Flash ending. The original Flash ending, well, because Flash 2 was going to be Flash trying to get back to his universe. He killed. Yeah, but Ark, like I said before, easily retcon that away because that was a CIA operative. That wasn't the real Jimmy Olsen. That's why. But yes, it could have, because the original ending was going to be Flash trying to get back to his universe. Now, here's the thing, Jay Heat, and Nicotina had this idea, so I'm not going to take credit for it. It's actually Andre's
Definitely shout out
idea.
Nicotina. Great channel.
So his idea was that what if when Barry gets back to his Earth at the end of Flash 2, it's in the Nightmare timeline.
Clock him right there. He helps with the resistance group, waits for the stars to align, and then time travels right back to BVS.
There you go. And then you get Justice League 2, and then you end the universe there because it's an organic ending. It's not like it's over, because we haven't gotten an actual conclusion. We've gotten things that we've gotten what Warner Brothers wants to force as an ending, but we haven't gotten an actual organic story-wise ending. That's
why I say closure is important. Even with the Infinity Saga, say what you will about Marvel Phases 4 and 5. Say what you will.
Mm-hmm.
But at least with the Infinity Saga alone, you had a definitive conclusion. Steve's retirement, Iron Man's sacrifice, the defeating of Thanos, everyone coming together, big or small, all across the board over the course of 25 films. Say what you will. That was a definitive conclusion, a big payoff. And even with the time travel shenanigans, that was mostly the first act. That was wrapped up 45 minutes in.
Mm-hmm.
Well, really an hour and a half.
No, he's the worst. Okay, ignoring. But anyway.
But I'm just saying, you had more of a payoff with Infinity War and Endgame than you did with Flash because the higher-ups gave up or just wanted to rebrand.
They took the lazy route out, and that's why I have zero confidence for the Gunverse, because I know Warner Brothers is going to do the same thing all over again. It's the same thing.
And I believe Shimada wanted to do a Batman Beyond, but with Batgirl, and I'm just like, dude. Mm-hmm. The main purpose of Batman Beyond, it's cyberpunk. It's not supposed to be ideal in any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, when people bring up, oh yeah, they were going to have a Michael Keaton Batman Beyond movie. Yeah, except it's going to be set in the modern day. That's what everyone conveniently leaves out.
If you just wanted a Batgirl movie, call it a freaking Batgirl movie. Don't just... Okay. I'm sorry.
Exactly, Jay Heat. Exactly, Jay Heat.
I'm just... Supergirl could have worked, don't get me wrong, because there's a lot you can do with Supergirl.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you could have. The Flash movie established a multiverse, so it could have ended with DCU left intact. Yeah, that's what it did, but they could have at least entered the new universe, in other words. But anyway, so Taladia, don't worry. Jay Heat and I kept the troops organized.
Yep, sure, no problem. Sorry that I had to deal with something. It was pretty important.
It's all good, man.
We got
It's your show, man. So if you want us to keep going, we can keep going.
No, I think that's pretty much it. Is there anything else you want to add?
Last thing I want to add is, this is more on the comic side of things, so I'll be very brief. Absolute power predictions, because I am not confident in this event at all.
I don't think it's gonna last.
And don't get me wrong, Cadmus or adapting Cadmus is a decent idea. But the comic side of things is way too convoluted. With the DCAU side of things, you had, super metahumans potentially going rogue. We don't have enough control over them. We're paranoid about them. We're scared of them. And we need some kind of contingency against them in that manner. That and the response to Superman Legacy when Superman was mind controlled by Darkseid. So, you have a direct setup of events. All you have in the comic side of things is Night Terrors and Dark Crisis. Mm-hmm. And even that, two convoluted stories that barely make any sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What about you, Jared?
Arguably, I agree with Jay Heat that this is the wrong way to go. I mean, what I'm interested for with absolute power is how is this gonna start the new universe? Because I'm like, I mean, they kind of hinted that Waller's been traveling the multiverse, so I guess that could be something. But still, I'm like, how does this line up?
The safest, now this is just a personal prediction of mine. The safest option is that everything goes wrong for the heroes, the Titans, everybody, all across the world, all across the board, and we just reboot. That would be the safest option, especially with the rumors of the Absolute Universe with Scott Snyder. Just reboot, clean slate, all is lost, new era. But again, you have some decent storylines going on, some other comic books that are selling, like Green Arrow, Joshua Williamson's work. Well, really, Joshua Williamson's work was one of the best out there right now. But it just remains to be seen. Rebooting would be the safest option, but I feel like they're just going to keep on chugging, and then Absolute Universe will just be an Elseworld.
Yeah.
But that's just my opinion. Jared, what do you think?
I already gave my
my fault.
On that. It's all good.
So let's do an outro. J Heat, where can I find you while you're coming up on the channel?
Okay, you can find me at J Heat Blaze on YouTube, J Heat 75 on Twitter or X, and J Heat 751 on Twitch, where if you want to go ahead and see my early gaming content before it comes up on YouTube, you're more than welcome to join me. As for what I got coming up on the channel, my Damian Wayne and Camu retrospectives will be out by the end of this week. Gotham Knights, the TV show Part 2 reaction, is also in the works. And hopefully next week, if both of these gentlemen are available, New Direction verse Men of Steel.
Ooh. All right. Sweet. What about you, Jared?
As for me, I'm going to go with, so I just uploaded my top 5, my video about my favorite Superman suits. And then in terms of movie night, we're going to be talking about X2, X-Men United. On this week's UTC, we're going to be talking about what the Batman the Animated Series did well. And in terms of Super Wonder Legacy, Britt and I are going to be reviewing Justice League New Frontier.
All right, cool. As for me on my channel, guys, obviously, like, I'm going to be doing the Summer Game Fest predictions video that's going to come out. I've got to work on it. Well, if I can't get it done this week, it'll be done next week. That's 100% sure. It'll be released by end of next week or the week after. And I also got Snyder Fans Read Comics next week. And also, what else is there? Obviously, New Direction verse with J Heat. And also, we got to be prepared for Man of Steel watch along, which is also in work. So I'll let you know what the situation is for that. But anyway, hope you have enjoyed. Like, comment, favorite, and subscribe, guys, and that notification bell, because when a video or a live stream that I do that does go live, you will be notified. And Jared, any final words you'd like to say before we end?
Lois Lane is Lois Lane. She belongs to General Zod. Zoe is a Maxibat for life.
All right, we're out of here, guys. Peace.